So hi everyone. So you have watched part 1 of this chapter, that is Principles of Management, where we started off. If you have seen that video which is already uploaded on the YouTube channel, so that was part 1 where we have already started off with the principles that has been given by Henry Fayol. So a quick recap of what we have covered in the video before. We started off with the second chapter for your business studies grade 12, that is Principles of Management. Now along with that, what did we do? We started off with that what is the importance of principles of management. We did a little bit of introduction along with the characteristics, and then we started off with the principles that is given by Henry Fayol. Now I told you in the beginning or in that previous session that Henry Fayol gave us the 14 principles of management, and we have already covered 7 of those, if you remember. Now in today's video we are going to cover the rest of the 7 principles of Mr. Fayol that was left off. Now a quick recap of what we have covered in the previous video. We have already covered this much. So what we have covered division of work. I already gave you the keyword that how are you going to remind or how are you going to remember division of work, that is dividing the work into smaller units or the smaller tasks. Then we did authority and responsibility, where we talked about that what is going to be the meaning of authority and responsibility, and according to Mr. Fayol, authority should always be equals to responsibility, where authority is right to give orders. On other hand, responsibility happens to be an obligation to do the task. Then we covered the principle of discipline, where it consists of 2 factors. The very first factor that we have happens to be that you are supposed to have proper rules and regulations in the organization, and second is fulfilling the commitment that you have made towards your worker. So the next one was unity of command, where we talked about one person is supposed to take orders from only one boss. So one boss equivalent to one subordinate. Then unity of direction, we talked about one head and following a single plan. So is unity of command is one boss, one subordinate. So unity of direction is basically one head following one plan. Then it is subordination of individual interest, that always your organization goals should be given the priority over the personal interest of the particular person. Then we talked about remuneration, that every person in the organization should be paid in a fair and a justice way. Now today we are going to talk about the rest of the 7 principles that we have. Started off with the first principle, that is centralization and decentralization. Now what do I mean by the principle of centralization and decentralization? Centralized organization is that kind of an organization where all the decision making powers rely with the top level management. So where all the decisions the top level people are taking it, this is called as your centralized decision. Like the managers and the supervisory level are not given any authority to make the decisions. Irrespective of a very small decision to take or a big decision to take, every decision is taken by the top level management. Whereas on the other hand, decentralization or decentralized organization happens to be an organization where you have an equal amount of authority at all the levels. So all the levels of management are given the decision making power, irrespective of it's a top level, a middle level or a supervisory level. All of these levels are given the authority to make the decisions. Again, what does Mr. Fayol insisted in this principle of management? Basically, he said that an organization should neither be completely centralized or the organization should neither be completely decentralized. An organization, in order to work in a proper way, should adopt a combination of centralization and decentralization. So he said that if the organization is completely centralized, that means the work is going to be delayed. Because in every matter, suppose I am the manager of the organization, I have to take a very quick decision that needs to be taken in, let's say, 2 hours or 1 hour. Now for every small decision also, I will have to go and ask the top level authority that can I go further with this particular project, can I do this, can I do that. So it is going to be a very time taking process. And if it's a completely decentralized, maybe everybody in my organization is not capable enough to make the decision. So manager has to be involved in the decision making. So that is why he said that an organization should always be a combination of centralization and decentralization. Now let's take an example here. For an instance, there is this person who is working in a jewelry store. Okay. Now this person who happens to be the salesman in the jewelry store has been given the power that you are allowed to give, let's say, 15% discount to the customers. So this is what an example of a decentralized organization, that each and every employee in the organization is given a decision making authority. So I have told my employee that you are supposed to give 15% discount. So it's an example of your decentralized organization. Now if a customer is persisting a lot, that no, I'm a regular customer, I've been joined with your jewelry store from the last 20 years, 25 years, so I want more than 15% of discount. Now the salesman doesn't have that authority to take the decision. So at that moment of time, he is going to go to the manager or any senior person to ask for more than 15% discount. So this is an example of your centralization and decentralization. Here the person has been given with the authority that he or she can give 15% discount. But beyond that, if she wants to go, he or she will have to ask the manager for the same thing. So a centralized organization is an organization where all the decisions are taken by the top level authority, whereas a decentralized organization is an organization where you are supposed to put all the levels in the same thing for the decision making kind of a thing. And according to Mr. Henry Fayol, an organization should never be completely centralized nor completely decentralized. Now the next principle that we are going to cover happens to be a scalar chain. Now what do I mean by scalar chain? Any kind of communication which is happening in the organization. Suppose I want to talk to my friend, I can directly go and talk to my friend. But if I want to talk to some other person in some other department, let's take an example here. So we are going to cover another principle that is called as your scalar chain. Now what do I mean by scalar chain? A scalar chain basically happens to be the principle where there is this worker A in the production department who wants to connect with worker B in the sales department. So you will be like, ma'am, very simple, the person can go, like A can go to B and directly talk to. No. He says whenever in the organization any communication has to happen, you will have to follow a proper formal line of communication. Now this person who is working in the production department will go to his supervisor. Supervisor will go to the production manager. Production manager will go to the sales manager. And sales manager will come to this worker B for that. So why to include all these people here? Let's suppose these people have a little conflict. Were your seniors in the loop that what has happened? Now let's take an example of your school only. If you are suffering from something in school, like your students are troubling you or something like that is happening, you're directly not going to go to the principal for that. You will have to follow a chain of command. You are going to report it to your class teacher, who is going to further take it to a supervisor of hers. Supervisor is going to take it to VP and VP is going to take it to the principal. So it is not something that a student can automatically go and tell to the principal. The first thing the principal is going to do, she is going to call the class teacher. Now class teacher is not in the loop that what is happening with the student. So that is what is meant by a scalar chain, where you are supposed to follow a formal line of authority when a communication is happening in the organization. Now what to do? Let's suppose this person has to take a decision within 30 minutes. If he is following, or if he is putting up so many people in the loop, the decision making is delayed. So he says, okay, I am giving you a shortcut in that method. In case of any emergency, you can use a shortcut which he said is referred to as a gangplank. So he says, if the situation arises which has to be done on a very emergency kind of a thing, then you can use a shortcut for that, and that shortcut is called as a gangplank. Otherwise, you will have to follow a formal line of chain of authority. The next principle that we have happens to be the principle of order. Now you'll be like, ma'am, we have already covered law and order, rules and regulations, so why this order? This order means that everything, whether living or non-living, should have a fixed place in the organization. Now what do I mean by fixed place? You go to school, you have a fixed place where you sit, like every day you are going to sit in the middle row, third seat. Every day your friend is going to sit on the first bench of the third row or something like that. The same happens in the organization. I know where my sales department sits, where my production department is, where the raw materials are kept, where my manager sits. Let's suppose these people do not have a fixed place. Hypothetical situation, these people do not have a fixed place. Now I'll be keep looking up for my manager all over. Oh, is he on the first floor? Is he on the second floor? Is he on the third floor? Is it this? Is it that? So that is going to waste a lot of time. So he says that every person, irrespective of a living or a non-living, that means raw materials, should have a fixed place in the organization. The next one is equity. This is all we know that we've been studying from 9th and 10th, that everybody should be treated in an equal and a justified manner. There should not be any kind of discrimination on the basis of your gender, nationality, color, caste, etc. Next one is your stability of personnel. What do I mean by stability of personnel? Let's suppose I was recruited by an organization in the month of August. So 1st of August, I was recruited by the organization. After 2 months, they shifted me to Mumbai. So I was recruited in Delhi on the month of or in the month of August, and within 1 month, I was shifted to Mumbai. Then after 2 months, I was shifted to Chennai, and again I was called in Delhi. Do you think if there is going to be a lot of changes that is happening, frequent transfers that is happening, I will get the stability in the organization? Will I get the sufficient time to prove myself that what I am worth of while working in the organization? No. As soon as I got a very ease at Delhi office, I was called in Mumbai office. I was settling down in Mumbai office, I was called in Chennai office. I was settling in Chennai, again called in Delhi. So he says when there is always a frequent terminations and transfers that is happening in the organization, it reduces the productivity of the person. So I will not be able to prove my worth. Or let's say within 5 days of me working, my manager has judged me that I am not capable of handling the job. 5 days is not sufficient to judge a person. So that is why every organization has their own hiring criteria, which they give 3 months or 4 months for a person to show his or her worth. If yet still the manager feels that this person will not be able to handle the job, then that person be laid off. But you will have to eventually give a certain amount of time, a certain amount of stability to that particular employee to show the worth. Next one is initiative. What is initiative? Calling your employees to bring up some suggestions. I am a manager, I am very proud of myself. Oh, I am the manager, I can make all the decisions by myself. I sometimes may be wrong in that. I sometimes might lack knowledge of that particular matter. So what do I need? I am going to call my subordinates, tell them that this is the task that needs to be done, and give your inputs. The one which is giving me the best input, I am going to reward that person. So what is initiate means? That initiative means that welcoming the suggestions from your employees. And the last one, that is the 14th principle, is aspirate the corps. Oh, I as a manager did this task. I am wrong here. I did not do all the task by myself. I had a certain help from my subordinates also. So he says when you are working in the organization, avoid using the word I. You are not going to use the word I. You are going to replace that word with we. That we did it, and because of that the organization was able to achieve the goals. So right in front of you is the 14 principles of management: division of work, authority, responsibility, discipline, unity of command, unity of direction, subordination of individual interest to general interest, remuneration of employees, centralization and decentralization, scalar chain, order, equity, stability of personnel, initiative, and aspirate the corps. Now let's look at them one by one in detail. Division of work starts with specialization improving efficiency. So you are going to basically just remember the keyword that you are going to divide the work into small units, or you are going to divide the work into smaller tasks. Second is discipline, where we are talking about what? In the principle of discipline, we are talking about obedience and respect to others, and also it comes with the second factor that you are supposed to fulfill the commitment if workers have made towards your boss, or if boss has made towards the workers. Third one is your authority and responsibility, where authority is right to command and responsibility is referred to an obligation on the subordinate to complete the task. Unity of command means one employee, one boss. So one supervisors, not 5 bosses. If that situation is going to happen, it is going to be a little chaotic. So to avoid chaos, it has to be one person receiving orders from only one boss. So this principle avoids what? This principle avoids dual subordination of work. Next one happens to be unity of direction, which says one head, one plan per goal. So just take it an example. If you have seen the previous video, I have already given the example here that if any organization is into manufacturing of scooters and cars, yet they have only a single production department, both of them will not be able to manufacture both of these particular products because they are quite different from each other. So for scooters, they are going to have a separate head and a separate plan, and for cars, they are going to have a separate head and a separate plan. Next one is subordination of individual interest, that your organization's interest always comes first. So skip a trip to hit a deadline. This is where you are giving a priority towards your organization's goal rather than your personal goal. Next one is remuneration of employee, that is paying fair wages to the fair work, that is performance linked pay and bonuses. Next one is your centralization and decentralization, where we are making a decision making power. Centralized organization is the organization where the authority is retained by the decision making authority is retained by the top level people. In decentralization, it is spread throughout the organization. Every person in the organization is given a decision making. So according to Fayol, he said that the organization should not be completely centralized or decentralized. A company should adopt a combination of the same. So it says HQ sets policy and branches decides the same. Next one is your scalar chain, that is clear line of authority from top to bottom. In order to confuse you, they are going to give you this question in CUET. Either is it bottom to top or top to bottom. So in the example which I have stated, if you remember, worker A to worker B, it was all going through downwards. Like worker A wants to communicate. So just taking an example here, this worker A is going to talk to this production supervisor, who is going to talk to the production manager, who is going to talk to the general manager, then the sales manager, sales supervisor, and then to the worker B. So suppose worker A in the production department wants to communicate with worker B in the sales department. So instead of connecting or contacting the worker directly, the message flows through a scalar chain. But if it's an emergency, what kind of emergency is it? That this person has to take the decisions within a time span of 30 minutes. So he doesn't have the time to connect so many people here. So he can use a shortcut in that scenario, but only in the case of emergency. And that shortcut is called as your gangplank. So he has given a situation to us also that I am telling you to follow a longer scale of communication, but if it's an emergency, the decision has to be taken on a quicker note, you can use a shortcut for that, and that shortcut is called as your gangplank. So otherwise it has to be a chain of command that needs to be followed so that every person is in the loop of what is happening in the organization. So next one is your order, that is a right place for everyone and everything. Equity is kindness and justice with staff. Stability of personnel happens to be low turnover, more expertise, that is keeping the trained staff, less hiring. Now, if an organization have a higher turnover, that employees are leaving, that is not a good news for the organization. Why? Because when you are going to hire new employees, you are going to spend a lot of cost on hiring. Along with that, you are going to train them. You are supposed to take the orientation. You are supposed to train them in such a way that they will be capable enough, and it is going to waste a lot of time. So in order to retain your older people, you will have to look at that there is no frequent transfers and terminations in the organization. The next one happens to be your initiative, where the freedom to think and execute plans are given, that is a clerk suggesting a better system. Suggestions are always welcome, and spirit the corps, you are going to remember this principle with I am not going to use the word I, and this is going to be replaced with the principle of we, that we as a team did it and we were able to come up with the particular solution, or we were able to complete the task. So this is all the 14 principles of Fayol that you are supposed to do. Now if you want me to bring in some CUET questions for you, you are supposed to put a comment in the comment section below, and then in the next video we are going to discuss that what are the typology of questions that come in the CUET for this particular topic. Or else I'm going to see you in the next video with the next principle of F.W. Taylor, that is the scientific principle. So very quickly, if you want the CUET questions to be practiced for this particular question, go in the comment section below and put a comment, and in the next video I'm going to bring you with the CUET questions of this particular topic. Thank you for watching everyone. I'll see you in the next video.